I never told my daughter about my $50,000 monthly CFO salary, even though she always saw me scraping by in a tiny apartment. One day, she invited me to a lavish weekend getaway with her fiancé's family, who were flying in from Europe. I decided to test their kindness by pretending to be a struggling widow on the edge of poverty. But the second we arrived at that sprawling lakeside mansion, the mask slipped in ways no one expected. What unfolded over those 2 days shattered my daughter's illusions and left her future in-laws exposed for who they truly were. They got exactly what they deserved. Let me tell you how it all began. Let me tell you who I really am. My daughter, Lily, was 28 when this happened, and to her, I was just Mom, the quiet woman who took the bus to a nondescript office job, who mended clothes instead of buying new ones, who packed leftovers for lunch and never splurged. I let her believe I was a low-level accountant, barely making ends meet after her father passed when she was young. The truth? For 25 years, I'd been the chief financial officer of a global tech firm, orchestrating billion-dollar mergers, advising Fortune 500 boards, and quietly amassing wealth that could buy islands. My salary hit $50,000 a month before bonuses, and my investment portfolio? Let's just say it grew faster than most people's dreams. But I never flaunted it. I grew up in a working-class neighborhood where bragging got you nowhere, and humility kept you grounded. So I stayed in my modest 2-bedroom apartment, drove a 15-year-old sedan, and wore the same wool coat every winter. Money was my security, not my identity. Power, to me, was in the shadows, watching, learning, never revealing your hand until necessary. That changed the day Lily called, her voice tight with excitement and something else, nerves, maybe shame. Mom, Ethan's parents are coming from London. It's their first time meeting family here. We're doing a weekend at their lake house upstate. Please say you'll come. The lake house. I'd heard about it from Lily, 6 bedrooms, private dock, chef on call. The kind of place where a night cost more than my monthly rent. I asked, "What did you tell them about me?" A pause. Then, softly, I said, "You're simple. You work in an office, live alone, don't have much." I didn't want them to think, she trailed off. Think what? That I'd embarrass her? That I wasn't good enough for their polished world? I swallowed the sting. I'll be there, sweetheart. I knew then. Ethan's family, the Harringtons, were old money, the kind who summered in the Hamptons and wintered in Aspen. Lily had met Ethan at an elite grad program, and she'd been trying to fit into his orbit ever since. If she thought I was a liability, I'd give them the version they expected, a broke, unassuming widow. I wanted to see how they treated someone they deemed beneath them. My gut, honed from decades negotiating with cutthroat executives, rarely lied. The weekend arrived. I wore my oldest outfit, a faded navy dress with a loose hem, scuffed flats, and a threadbare cardigan. No makeup, no jewelry, hair in a limp bun. I carried a plastic grocery bag as a purse. In the mirror, I looked like someone life had chewed up and spit out. Perfect. Ethan picked me up in a gleaming black SUV. He was polite but stiff, eyes flicking over my clothes. "Mrs. Carter, good to see you." Lily sat in the passenger seat, dressed in designer athleisure, her engagement ring catching the light. She smiled too brightly. "Mom, you look cozy." I caught her wince. The drive was 2 hours of small talk, Ethan's job in private equity, Lily's new marketing role, the Harringtons' latest trip to Tuscany. I nodded along, playing the naive guest. Tuscany? That's in Italy, right? Never been overseas myself. We pulled up to the lake house at dusk. It was a monster, glass walls, cedar beams, a lawn sloping to a private beach. A butler greeted us. Inside, the Harringtons waited like royalty. Eleanor, Ethan's mother, wore a silk blouse and pearls, her blonde hair in a flawless chignon. She air-kissed Lily, then turned to me. Her smile froze as she took in my dress, my bag. "You must be Mrs. Carter." Her handshake was limp. Charles, Ethan's father, was all tailored suit and Rolex, offering a curt nod. Pleasure. Dinner was in a dining room overlooking the water. Crystal chandelier, white linens, a spread that could feed a village. I sat at the far end, like an afterthought. The waiter poured wine, $300 a bottle, Eleanor noted casually. I clutched my water glass. She leaned toward me. Do you need help with the menu, dear? It's in French. Her tone dripped pity. Oh, yes, please, I said meekly. I don't read fancy languages. Charles chuckled. No shame in that. Not everyone travels. The conversation turned to money, as I knew it would. Eleanor boasted about their London flat, their yacht in Monaco. We've worked hard, she said, eyeing me. Investments, you know. Properties in 4 countries now. Charles added, Ethan's trust fund is set for life. Lily will want for nothing. I nodded. That's wonderful. I've always just gotten by. Eleanor's smile tightened. And what do you do, exactly? Office work, I said, lowering my eyes. Filing, answering phones. Nothing special. She exchanged a look with Charles. Honest work, he said, but his tone said charity case. Lily squirmed. Ethan tried to steer things to safer ground, wedding plans, the lake. But Eleanor circled back. Lily mentioned you live alone. Must be tough on a modest income. Does Lily help you out? The trap snapped shut. I played along. I manage. I don't like to burden her. Eleanor sighed theatrically. So noble. But children should support their parents, shouldn't they? We've always provided for Ethan, private schools, Ivy League, the best of everything. She looked at Lily. We even covered their deposit on that gorgeous condo downtown, $80,000, but worth it for family. I felt Lily tense. Ethan's jaw tightened. I smiled weakly. That's generous. I gave Lily what I could for the wedding, a little savings. Not much. Eleanor's eyes gleamed. Every bit helps, doesn't it? Intention matters. The dig was surgical, I hadn't given enough. I was a failure as a mother. Dessert came, gold-dusted chocolates, $50 a plate. Eleanor savored hers. Only the finest, you know. Quality over quantity. I picked at my plain fruit salad. She turned to me again. Mrs. Carter, we need to discuss something important. As Ethan's parents, we want the best for him and Lily. Stability, you understand. Lily's fork clattered. Mom, not now. Eleanor raised a hand. Let me finish, darling. She fixed her gaze on me. You've done admirably, raising Lily alone. But now she's entering our world. Responsibilities, expectations. We don't want distractions. Distractions. There it was. I was the distraction. You mean me, I said softly. Eleanor hesitated. We're prepared to help. A monthly allowance, say, $1,000, to ease your burdens. In return, we'd ask you to give Lily and Ethan space. No frequent visits, no financial requests. Let them build their life. Charles nodded. It's fair. Generous, even. Lily's face flushed. This is insane. Ethan looked away. I let the silence stretch, then spoke, my voice no longer small. $1,000 a month to vanish. That's your offer? Eleanor blinked. It's support, it's a bribe, I cut in, calm but icy. You've spent all evening measuring my worth. My clothes, my job, my life. You decided I'm a problem to be paid off. Charles bristled. You're misreading, am I? I leaned forward. You mocked my illiteracy in French. You pitted my modest income. You implied I failed Lily because I didn't buy her a condo. Tell me, Eleanor, when did you last treat someone without money as an equal? The room went still. Lily's eyes widened. Ethan froze. Eleanor's mouth opened, closed. I continued. You asked if I've ever traveled. No, I haven't. Because I was busy working 3 jobs to keep a roof over Lily's head after her father died. I studied at night, earned degrees, climbed from clerk to CFO of a company that employs 15,000 people. I manage budgets bigger than your net worth. And yes, I earned $50,000 a month. Lily gasped. Mom? I looked at her gently. I never told you because I wanted you to value grit, not handouts. I wanted you to build your own life, not lean on mine. Eleanor scoffed, recovering. This is absurd. If you're so wealthy, why dress like that? I smiled. Because I don't need to prove anything. Because I came here to see who you are when you think no one's watching. And I saw. Charles stood. You deceived us. You deceived yourselves, I shot back. You offered me alms to disappear. You humiliated me because you thought you could. Now you know the poor widow could buy this house twice over. How's that feel? The weekend spiraled from there. Breakfast the next morning was tense. Eleanor barely spoke. Charles scrolled his phone. Lily pulled me aside. Why didn't you tell me? I hugged her. You needed to see them for who they are. And you needed to choose who you want to be. She cried, torn between love for Ethan and shame at his parents. By lunch, the Harringtons' true colors showed again. Their credit cards were declined at the marina, some security hold from traveling. Eleanor panicked, whispering about embarrassment. I paid the $2,000 bill with my matte black card, the kind that makes bankers flinch. Consider it a gift, I said, echoing her earlier condescension. From a struggling widow. That night, Lily confronted Ethan. Your parents tried to buy my mom off. I can't marry into this. Ethan, to his credit, was horrified. He faced his parents, voice shaking. You treated her like garbage. We're done unless you apologize, genuinely. Eleanor refused, calling it manipulation. Charles threatened to cut Ethan off. They left early, tails between their legs. Lily stayed with me. We drove home in silence, then talked for hours. She was angry, at them, at herself for not seeing it sooner. I thought money made them better, she said. You showed me it's just a mask. I told her about my life, the sacrifices, the wins, the choice to stay humble. Wealth is freedom, I said. Use it to lift others, not lord over them. Weeks later, Lily ended things with Ethan. Not because of his parents alone, but because she realized she'd been chasing their world, not her own. She moved into my apartment, for now, she said, smiling. The Harringtons sent a stiff apology note, laced with excuses. I didn't reply. Some people never change. I never pretended to be poor again. I didn't need to. Lily saw the truth, of me, of them, of herself. And in my simple apartment, with my brilliant daughter by my side, I was richer than any lake house could ever make me. The weeks that followed were not loud. There were no dramatic follow-up confrontations, no viral social media fallout, no triumphant magazine interviews. Just the soft, steady rhythm of 2 women learning how to be mother and daughter again, this time without secrets. Lily kept her job but quit the luxury condo she and Ethan had shared. She moved into my second bedroom, the one I'd used as storage for old tax files and holiday decorations. We painted the walls a warm sage green on a Saturday, laughing when paint splattered our hair. She insisted on paying rent, real rent, Mom, not symbolic, and I let her, because I understood, she needed to feel she was standing on her own 2 feet, not leaning on a hidden fortune. At night, we cooked together. Simple things, pasta with garden tomatoes, grilled cheese when we were tired. She asked questions I'd never heard her ask before. Not about spreadsheets or stock options, but about fear, loneliness, and the nights I cried myself to sleep after her father's funeral. I told her everything. How I'd hidden my first big promotion because I was terrified she'd start seeing me as a bank instead of a mom. How I'd turned down lavish company retreats to be home for her school plays. How every dollar I saved was a promise. You will never know the panic of an empty fridge. She listened, eyes wide, then asked the question that broke me open. Did you ever regret it? Hiding who you were, for me. I thought of the years I'd spent shrinking myself, of the boardroom battles I'd won while wearing thrift store blouses, of the private jet I'd quietly declined because I didn't want her to grow up entitled. Never, I said, voice cracking. But I regretted the distance it created. I thought I was protecting you. I didn't realize I was teaching you to be ashamed of me. That night, she cried in my arms like she hadn't since she was 7. Not from grief, but from relief, the kind that comes when the last wall between two people finally crumbles. One Sunday, we walked to the farmer's market. Lily carried the canvas tote I'd once used as a poor widow prop. She filled it with peaches, fresh basil, a loaf of sourdough. A vendor recognized me, Miss Carter. You closed that merger with the Tokyo firm, right? And Lily's jaw dropped. She'd read the headlines but never connected them to the woman who burned toast and sang off-key in the shower. Later, over coffee on the fire escape, she said quietly, I almost married into a family that would have made me choose between you and their approval. I almost became someone who measured love in square footage. She traced the rim of her mug. I keep replaying Eleanor's face when you paid the bill. Not just embarrassment, fear. She was terrified of being seen as less. And I realized I'd started to live in that fear too. I didn't rush to comfort her. Some truths need space to settle. Instead, I told her about the first time I'd been underestimated in a boardroom, a room full of men in $5,000 suits who laughed when I, the temp accountant, corrected their valuation model. I'd smiled, fixed the numbers, and watched them choke on their own arrogance. Power isn't the absence of fear, I said. It's deciding what you'll do with it. 3 months later, an envelope arrived, thick cream stationery, Eleanor's elegant script. I opened it alone. Mrs. Carter, Charles and I have reflected. We were unkind. We mistook humility for weakness and responded with cruelty. Ethan is heartbroken, but he respects Lily's choice. We have cut all financial support as a consequence of our actions. Perhaps one day you'll allow us to make amends, not with money, but with time. We were wrong, regretfully. Eleanor Harrington. I read it twice. Then folded it into a neat square and slipped it into the drawer with Lily's childhood drawings. I didn't need their remorse to feel whole. But I showed it to Lily anyway. She read it in silence, then said, they'll never understand what they lost. Not the money, the chance to know you. She paused. I'm glad I chose the harder path. The real one. On her 29th birthday, I gave Lily a gift, not a check, but a leather-bound journal. Inside, I'd written the story of every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every quiet victory. The last page held a single line, wealth is what you give when no one's watching. Love is what remains when everything else is gone. She cried again, happy tears this time, and added her own entry that night. Months later, she showed me the updated version, pages filled with her own struggles, her decision to start a scholarship fund for single mothers pursuing MBAs, her refusal of a promotion that required her to compromise her values. Some nights, I still wake at 3 a.m., heart racing from old fears. What if she'd married Ethan? What if she'd become Eleanor? Then I hear Lily humming in the kitchen, making tea the way I taught her, and the panic ebbs. I never told her about my money to control her. I hid it to free her. And in the end, the greatest fortune wasn't the millions in my accounts. It was the sound of her laughter echoing through our tiny apartment. It was the way she now introduces me. This is my mom, the woman who taught me that dignity isn't purchased, it's lived. It was the knowledge that when she has children someday, they'll grow up knowing their grandmother as the quiet warrior who chose love over legacy, truth over tribute. The lake house is on the market now. The Harringtons never returned. But every sunrise, I sit by my window with coffee and watch the city wake up, ordinary people, extraordinary lives. And I know, with a bone-deep certainty, that I am the richest woman alive, not because of what I have, but because of who I kept. The apartment smelled of fresh paint and possibility that first month after Lily moved in. Our two-bedroom haven, once a quiet fortress of my secrets, now buzzed with her energy, her playlists spilling from a Bluetooth speaker, her marketing mock-ups pinned to the fridge, her running shoes tumbling out of the hallway closet. It was chaotic, alive, and sometimes overwhelming. I'd spent 25 years perfecting solitude. Now, I was learning to share space with a 28-year-old who left coffee mugs everywhere and asked questions that cut to the bone. One evening, as rain tapped the windows, Lily sat cross-legged on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She stopped, frowned, and turned to me. "Mom, did you see this?" She held up an article from a finance blog, Tech CFO Clara Carter, the silent titan behind $12 billion in mergers. My name, my face, the rare candid shot from a conference, stared back. The piece detailed my career, my low-profile wealth, even speculating about my mysterious personal life. "They're calling you a legend," Lily said, half odd, half accusing. "How did this even get out?" I sighed, setting down my tea. "Someone talked. A colleague, a journalist with a tip. It happens." The truth was, I'd known this day might come. My role at the company was too big to stay invisible forever. But I hadn't expected it so soon after the lake house, when my world was already raw. Lily's eyes searched mine. "Are you okay with this? The world knowing?" I considered it. For decades, anonymity had been my shield. Now, it was cracking. "I'm okay," I said finally. "But it changes things. For you, too." She nodded, understanding. The article didn't just expose me, it put a spotlight on her, the daughter of this silent titan who'd been engaged to a Harrington. Social media was already buzzing with speculation about our breakup with Ethan's family. That night, Lily couldn't sleep. I found her at the kitchen table at 2 a.m., staring at a blank notebook. "I keep thinking about what I almost became," she whispered when I sat beside her. I was so desperate to fit into their world, private jets, galas, Instagram-perfect vacations. I thought that was success. But you built something real, and you hid it to protect me. I feel like I failed you." I took her hand. "You didn't fail me, Lily. You were finding your way. We all chase the wrong things sometimes." She shook her head. "No, Mom. I was ashamed of you. I told Ethan's parents you were simple because I didn't want them to judge me. I judged you first." Her voice broke. "I'm so sorry." The apology hung between us, heavy but healing. I pulled her close. "I forgave you the moment you chose to see me, Lily. That's what matters." We sat there until dawn, talking about shame, about the lies we tell ourselves to belong. It was the first of many nights where the walls between us dissolved completely. Lily's response to the article wasn't to hide, it was to act. Within weeks, she launched the Carter Resilience Scholarship, a fund for single mothers pursuing advanced degrees in business or tech. She used her savings, her marketing expertise, and her newfound platform to raise $50,000 in the first month. "It's not about your money, Mom," she told me firmly when I offered to contribute. "It's about what you taught me, lifting others without needing credit." I was proud, but I saw the toll it took. Lily worked late, fielded calls from donors, and navigated the skepticism of a world that still saw her as the Harrington X. One night, she came home exhausted, her eyes red. "A donor pulled out," she said. "They said it's risky to back a fund tied to a scandal." They meant the lake house. She laughed bitterly. "Eleanor's probably thrilled." I poured her wine. "Let them go. The right people will stay." She nodded, but I saw the doubt. Lily was learning what I'd known for years. Building something meaningful meant facing rejection, again and again. To support her, I did something I'd never done, I went public. I agreed to a keynote at a women's leadership summit, my first in a decade. I wore a simple navy suit, no designer labels, and spoke about resilience, about choosing substance over status. I didn't mention the Harringtons, but I didn't need to. The audience, hundreds of women, many single mothers, hung on every word. When I announced a $1 million pledge to Lily's scholarship, the room erupted. Lily, in the front row, cried silently. Afterward, a young woman approached me. "Ms. Carter, I'm a single mom. I dropped out of college when my son was born. Your story, it's why I'm going back." She handed me a crumpled photo of her toddler. I kept it on my desk for years, a reminder of why I'd hidden my wealth, and why I was done hiding my heart. 6 months after the lake house, Ethan showed up at our apartment. He looked thinner, his usual polish dulled. Lily opened the door, froze, then let him in. I stayed in the kitchen, giving them space but listening. "I'm not here to win you back," he said quickly. I need to understand." Lily's voice was steady. "Understand what, Ethan? That your parents tried to pay my mom to disappear? That you didn't stop them?" He flinched. I was spineless. I thought if I stayed quiet, it would blow over. I was wrong. They talked for an hour. Ethan admitted his parents had cut him off entirely, no trust fund, no job at Charles's firm. He was working as a junior analyst, living in a studio, trying to rebuild. "I hated who I was with them," he said. "Always performing, always proving. I don't want that life anymore." Lily didn't take him back, but she didn't shut him out either. "I'm proud you're trying, Ethan. But I'm not the same person I was. I don't need saving." He nodded, eyes wet, and left. Later, Lily told me, "I feel sorry for him. He's trapped in their world, even when he tries to escape." I agreed. The Harringtons' wealth hadn't just hurt us, it had caged their son. Then came the letter from Eleanor, the one I'd tucked away. Lily found it months later, cleaning out my drawer. "You kept this?" she asked, holding the cream stationery. I nodded. "Proof they're human. Flawed, but human." She read it aloud, her voice softening at Eleanor's admission of regret. "Do you think they've changed?" she asked. "I think they're scared," I said. "Losing Ethan, losing face, it's forced them to look in the mirror." "But change? That takes more than one letter." Lily folded it carefully. "I hope they do. For Ethan's sake." A year after the lake house, I faced a ghost of my own. My company was acquired in a $15 billion deal, and the new board wanted me to stay on as a strategic advisor. The catch? They wanted me in London for 6 months. It was a dream offer, global influence, a salary bump, a chance to shape an industry. But it meant leaving Lily, leaving the life we'd built. I agonized for weeks. Lily noticed my distraction. One night, over takeout pizza, she said, "Mom, you're terrible at hiding things now." "What's wrong?" I told her about the offer. Her face fell, then hardened. "You should go. It's your legacy." I shook my head. "You're my legacy." We argued gently, but it was our first real fight. She insisted I was sacrificing too much, that I'd earned the right to shine. I countered that I'd spent 25 years proving myself. Now, I wanted to be present. In the end, we compromised. I'd take the role but negotiate remote work as much as possible, with short trips to London. Lily would manage the scholarship fund full-time, hiring a team to expand it. The decision felt right, but it stirred old wounds. I dreamed of my early years, nights studying while Lily slept in a crib beside me, the fear that one missed paycheck would unravel everything. I woke up gasping, convinced I'd failed her. Lily found me once, shaking on the couch. "Mom, you didn't fail me," she said, wrapping me in a blanket. "You're here. That's enough." 2 years later, the Carter Resilience Scholarship was a national force, funding 200 women annually. Lily had become a speaker herself, her talks raw and funny, laced with stories of her broke upbringing and the mom who turned out to be a titan. She never name-dropped the Harringtons, but the subtext was clear: wealth doesn't equal worth. I scaled back at work, mentoring young executives instead of running boardrooms. I bought a small cabin upstate, not a mansion, just a place with a porch and a lake view. Lily and I spent weekends there, kayaking, reading, laughing. She started dating again, a kind architect who loved her mind, not her connections. I liked him. He didn't flinch when I paid for dinner with my black card. One summer evening, as fireflies blinked over the water, Lily handed me a new journal. "Your turn," she said. I opened it to find her handwriting: "To Mom, who taught me that power is quiet, love is loud, and home is wherever we choose truth." I wrote back: "To Lily, who showed me that courage is inherited, but wisdom is earned." 2 years later, the Carter Resilience Scholarship was a national force, funding 200 women annually. Lily had become a speaker herself, her talks raw and funny, laced with stories of her broke upbringing and the mom who turned out to be a titan. She never name-dropped the Harringtons, but the subtext was clear: wealth doesn't equal worth. I scaled back at work, mentoring young executives instead of running boardrooms. I bought a small cabin upstate, not a mansion, just a place with a porch and a lake view. Lily and I spent weekends there, kayaking, reading, laughing. She started dating again, a kind architect who loved her mind, not her connections. I liked him. He didn't flinch when I paid for dinner with my black card. One summer evening, as fireflies blinked over the water, Lily handed me a new journal. "Your turn," she said. I opened it to find her handwriting: "To Mom, who taught me that power is quiet, love is loud, and home is wherever we choose truth." I wrote back: "To Lily, who showed me that courage is inherited, but wisdom is earned." 10 years later, on the scholarship's anniversary, I wrote to Eleanor. "Not out of duty, but closure, Eleanor. I don't know if you'll read this, but I hope you do. I've thought of you often, not with anger, but with curiosity. Did you ever find what you were chasing? Not money, but meaning. I hope so. Lily is happy, building a life of her own design. Ethan, from what I hear, is too. I wish you peace, the kind that doesn't need a price tag. With sincerity, Clara Carter." I didn't expect a reply. I didn't need one. The act of writing was my final release, a nod to the woman I'd been and the one I'd become. As I sealed the envelope, Lily called from the porch. "Mom, Emma's demanding another story." I smiled, joined them, and began: "Once upon a time, there was a mom who learned that the greatest treasure wasn't gold, but the people who saw her heart, and in their eyes, Lily's, Emma's, the world's, I was rich beyond measure." The cabin smelled of pine and cinnamon the October Emma turned 12. The lake had turned a burnished gold under the afternoon sun, and the air carried the crisp bite of coming frost. I, Clara Carter, now 68, officially retired from the corporate world but never from being a mother, was on the porch swing, wrapped in a quilt Lily had sewn from old t-shirts. Emma was skipping stones with her father, David, the architect Lily married 6 years ago. Their laughter floated up the hill like music. Lily emerged from the kitchen, carrying 2 mugs of cocoa. Her hair was shorter now, streaked with premature silver from stress and joy in equal measure. She handed me a mug and sat beside me. "She's getting good," she said, nodding toward Emma. "David says she's got your arm." I smiled. "She's got your heart." We watched in silence for a while. The scholarship fund, now the Carter Resilience Foundation, had just celebrated its 10th anniversary, awarding its 2000th grant. Lily had turned it into a powerhouse, with corporate partners, a documentary in the works, and a waiting list of 5,000 applicants. She'd done it without touching my money. I'd offered, she'd refused. "It's not about your wealth, Mom. It's about ours." But today wasn't about work. It was Emma's birthday weekend, and we'd come to the cabin to unplug. No phones, no emails, just family. David had built a treehouse for Emma last summer, and she'd demanded we all sleep in it tonight. I'd agreed, my knees protested, but my heart didn't. Lily leaned her head on my shoulder. You ever think we'd end up here? You, me, a treehouse sleepover? I chuckled. I thought I'd be alone in that apartment forever. You changed everything. She squeezed my hand. You changed me. I remember the night Emma came into the world like it was yesterday. Lily had gone into labor at 2 a.m., 3 weeks early. David called me in a panic. I drove through a thunderstorm, my old sedan hydroplaning on the highway. I burst into the delivery room still in my rain-soaked coat. Lily was screaming, gripping David's hand, her face pale with exhaustion. Mom, she gasped when she saw me. I'm scared. I took her other hand. You're not alone. You're never alone. I'd whispered the same words to her when she was 5 and had nightmares. Now, they carried the weight of a lifetime. Emma arrived at dawn, tiny and fierce, with a cry that rattled the windows. Lily sobbed when they placed her in her arms. She's perfect, she whispered. I cried too, silent, ugly tears I hadn't shed since my husband died. In that moment, I understood, this was the inheritance I'd been building all along. Not the millions in the bank, but this child, this love, this continuity. A week after Emma's birthday, a letter arrived at the cabin. Thick cream stationery, elegant script. My stomach dropped. I hadn't seen that handwriting in a decade, but I knew it instantly. Eleanor Harrington opened it on the porch, the wind tugging at the pages. Alara, Charles passed last spring. Heart attack. Sudden. I'm selling the London flat, the yacht, everything. Ethan is married now, with a daughter. He named her Lily. He doesn't know I'm writing. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know, you were right. We measured people by what they had, not who they were. I see it now, too late. I hope your family is well. I hope you're happy. Eleanor, I read it 3 times. Then folded it and slipped it into my journal. I didn't tell Lily. Not yet. Some ghosts need to be laid to rest alone. It started small. A spark from the fireplace, a log that rolled onto the rug. We'd been roasting marshmallows, telling ghost stories. Emma had fallen asleep in the treehouse. David carried her down. Lily and I were cleaning up when I smelled smoke. Mom? Lily's voice was sharp. I turned. Flames licked the corner of the living room, spreading fast. The cabin was old wood, dry as tinder. David shouted, "Get out!" He grabbed Emma. Lily froze, staring at the fire like it was a living thing. I snapped into action, the same clarity I'd used in boardrooms under pressure. Lily, the back door. Now. I grabbed the fire extinguisher, but the flames were already climbing the curtains. We stumbled outside, coughing, as the cabin roared into an inferno. We stood on the lawn, watching our sanctuary burn. David held Emma, who was crying. Lily clung to me, shaking. Everything's gone, she whispered. The journals, the photos, your quilt. I pulled her close. We're alive. That's everything. The fire department came. They saved the treehouse, but the cabin was a total loss. Insurance would cover it, but money couldn't replace the memories etched into those walls, the paint splatters from our first summer, the growth chart on the kitchen door, the rocking chair where I'd read to Emma. That night, we slept in a motel. Lily didn't speak. I held her hand until she fell asleep, her face streaked with soot and tears. The next morning, Lily was different. Harder. She sat at the motel table, staring at her laptop. I'm rebuilding the cabin, she said. Bigger. Better. Fireproof. I nodded. We'll do it together. But she shook her head. No, Mom. I need to do this. For me. For Emma. For us. I understood. The fire had taken something from her: security, control, the illusion of permanence. She needed to reclaim it. David took Emma to his parents for a week. Lily and I stayed in the motel, planning. She hired architects, sourced sustainable materials, fought with insurance adjusters. I watched her transform grief into grit, fear into fire. She was becoming the woman I'd always known she could be. One night, she found Eleanor's letter in my bag. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, voice tight. I sighed. It didn't feel like ours to carry anymore. She read it silently. "Then, Charles is dead. Ethan has a daughter named Lily. And Eleanor's alone." She looked at me. "Do you feel anything?" I thought of the lake house, the disdain, the $1,000 bribe. Then I thought of Eleanor's trembling hand holding my black card, the fear in her eyes. "I feel sad," I admitted. "Not for what they did to us. For what they lost. They had everything and nothing." Lily nodded slowly. "I want to write to her." "I didn't stop her, Eleanor. Mom showed me your letter. I'm sorry about Charles. I'm sorry you're alone. I don't forgive you, not because I can't, but because forgiveness isn't mine to give. It's Mom's. And she's already let you go." Our cabin burned down last week. Everything we built, gone. But we're rebuilding. Stronger. Because that's what Mom taught me: you don't measure loss by what's gone, but by what you choose to build next. Your granddaughter is named Lily. She's 12, fierce, and kind. She'll never know you, but she'll know love. That's the difference between us. I hope you find peace." Lily Carter Davidson. She mailed it without telling me. I found out when Eleanor replied, a single line on a postcard: "Thank you. I will try." The new cabin rose over 6 months. Lily designed it herself: solar panels, fire-resistant cedar, a widow's walk with a view of the lake. She named it Phoenix House. Emma picked the paint color, a bold, defiant red. We moved in on Emma's 13th birthday. The first night, we sat on the new porch. David played guitar. Emma read aloud from a new journal Lily had started. I looked at them, my daughter, my son-in-law, my granddaughter, and felt the weight of a lifetime lift. Lily had invited the first scholarship recipients to the opening. 20 women, all single mothers, stood in the yard, holding their children. One, a former nurse named Rosa, approached me. "Ms. Carter, your daughter saved my life. I'm a doctor now because of her fund." I hugged her. "You saved yourself." We just held the door. That winter, I turned 70. Lily threw a party at Phoenix House, simple, no press, just family and the women we'd helped. Emma gave a speech. "My grandma taught me that being rich isn't about money. It's about having a heart big enough to hold everyone." Afterward, Lily pulled me aside. "Mom, I have something for you." She handed me a box. Inside was a new quilt, made from scraps of the old one, salvaged from the fire. She'd sewn in patches from Emma's baby clothes, David's old shirts, even a square from my first boardroom blazer. In the center, embroidered in gold, "We rise by lifting others." I cried. Not quietly. Ugly, heaving sobs. Lily held me. "You're not allowed to hide anymore," she whispered. "The world needs to see you." Years later, when I was gone, they'd find my will. I'd left everything: the millions, the investments, the cabin, to the Carter Resilience Foundation, with one condition: Lily would run it for life, then pass it to Emma, then to her children. But the real inheritance wasn't money. It was the quilt. It was the stories. It was the fire that burned down a house and built a family. And it was the truth I finally spoke aloud, the night before I died, surrounded by Lily, David, Emma, and a room full of women whose lives we'd changed. "I never told you I was rich because I wanted you to know, love doesn't need a price tag. But I tell you now, I was rich the moment you were born. And I've been richer every day since." 2035 began with smoke, not the soft, nostalgic kind from a fireplace, but a choking, orange haze that rolled down from Canada and swallowed the Northeast for weeks. Wildfires, fueled by a record drought, turned the sky apocalyptic. Phoenix House, our fireproof cabin, stood untouched, but the lake had receded to a cracked mudflat. Emma, now 32, a civil engineer specializing in disaster-resilient infrastructure, flew in from California every weekend to help evacuate neighbors. Lily, 58, ran the Carter Resilience Foundation from a command center in the Widow's Walk, coordinating aid drops for displaced families. I, Alara Carter, 88, sat on the porch with oxygen tubes in my nose and a tablet on my lap, quietly wiring millions to relief funds. The world called it the Great Smoke Summer. We called it the test. Emma burst through the door one August evening, soot-streaked and furious. "Grandma, the feds are diverting water from the lake to fight a fire in Vermont. They're saying Phoenix House is low priority. We'll lose the foundation of the dock, the whole east wing could collapse." Lily's face went white. I closed my eyes. The cabin had survived one fire. It would not survive bureaucracy. That night, we made a plan. Not with money, money was useless against red tape, but with truth. Emma set up a camera on the porch. Lily wore the old quilt like a cape. I sat between them, frail but unbroken. At 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Emma hit live on every platform the foundation owned. Within minutes, 2.3 million viewers tuned in. Emma spoke first, voice steady, "This is Phoenix House. My grandmother built it from ashes. My mother made it a refuge. Now the government wants to let it die to save a forest that's already burning. This isn't about one cabin. It's about every family told their home doesn't matter." Lily took the mic. "We've helped 50,000 women rebuild after disasters. We will not abandon our own." Then she turned to me. I hadn't spoken publicly in a decade. My voice was a rasp, but it carried. I was once offered $1,000 a month to disappear. I refused. Tonight, I offer $10 million to any agency that saves this lake, not for me, but for the 200 families downstream who will lose their water if it's diverted. This is what resilience looks like, choosing people over politics. The internet exploded. #SavePhoenixHouse trended worldwide. By morning, the diversion order was reversed. The lake was saved. So was the East Wing, but the smoke kept coming. 3 weeks later, I collapsed in the kitchen. Lily found me on the floor, clutching Emma's childhood stone-skipping rock. The doctor's words were gentle but final: congestive heart failure, accelerated by smoke exposure. Months, maybe weeks, I refused the hospital. "Take me home," I said. "To Phoenix House." They wheeled me onto the porch at sunset. The sky was finally clearing, revealing a bruised purple horizon. Emma sat on one side, Lily on the other. David brought tea. The quilt, now patched with singed fabric from the great smoke, covered my legs. I looked at Emma. "You're angry," I said. She nodded, tears falling. "I'm angry you're leaving. I'm angry the world keeps trying to take what we built." I took her hand. "Then build louder." Lily had a secret. For 20 years, she'd been recording me, voice memos, videos, scribbled notes. Every story, every lesson, every tear. She called it the Ember Archive. Now, she played the first entry for Emma, age 68, the night Emma was born. "I thought wealth was money. It's not. It's the sound of your daughter's laugh when she thinks no one's listening." Emma sobbed. "I want more time." I smiled. "You have all of it. Every time you help someone, every time you choose kindness over convenience, you're living my time." 2 days before I slipped into a coma, a car pulled up the gravel drive. A woman stepped out, silver-haired, frail, leaning on a cane. Eleanor Harrington, 84, alone. Lily met her at the door. I watched from the porch, too weak to stand. Eleanor's voice cracked. I saw the live stream. I had to come. She held a small wooden box. Charles's ashes. He wanted to be scattered in a lake. Any lake. I thought, maybe here. Lily hesitated, then stepped aside. Eleanor approached me. Her eyes, once cold with judgment, were red-rimmed. "Alara," she whispered. "I was wrong. About everything. I reached for her hand. It trembled in mine. "You're here," I said. "That's enough." She opened the box. Inside was a tiny silver locket, engraved with L.C. Lily Carter. "Ethan's daughter wears the twin," she said. "He wanted you to have this. A bridge." I closed her fingers over it. "Give it to Emma. Let the children finish what we started." Eleanor wept. Lily hugged her. For the first time in 30 years, the Harringtons and the Carters stood under the same roof, not as enemies, but as witnesses. I lasted 9 more days. The porch became a vigil. Scholarship recipients flew in from across the country. Rosa, the doctor, brought her teenage son. A former addict turned social worker read my favorite poem. David played guitar. Emma live-streamed the sunset every night, calling it Grandma's Sky. On the final evening, the smoke had lifted entirely. The lake mirrored a rose-gold sky. I was lucid, barely. Lily leaned close. "Mom, what do you need?" I whispered, "Tell them the truth." She nodded, tears falling. Then, to the camera, to the world, my mother never wanted to be a legend. She wanted to be enough. And she was. Every day she chose love over legacy, truth over tribute. This is her last lesson: wealth is not what you hoard. It's what you release. I died at 3:17 a.m. Emma was holding my hand. Lily was singing the lullaby I'd sung to her at 5. David stood at the foot of the bed, tears silent. The oxygen machine beeped once, then stopped. Emma kissed my forehead. "I'll build louder," she promised. They buried me on the hill overlooking the lake, under a young maple Emma planted. No casket, just the quilt, wrapped around me like armor. 5,000 people attended, scholarship recipients, neighbors, CEOs, cab drivers. The Ember Archive played on loop from speakers in the trees. Lily spoke first. "My mother taught me that fire doesn't destroy, it reveals." She burned away pretense, fear, and pride. What remained was love. Emma spoke last. Grandma's final gift wasn't money. It was permission to be flawed, to be fierce, to be fully human. I will spend my life earning that permission for others. Eleanor stood in the back, unnoticed by most. She scattered Charles's ashes into the wind. Then she left the locket on my grave. 1 year later, Phoenix House 2.0 opened, a net zero community center powered by the lake, with dorms for disaster-displaced families, a tech lab for scholarship recipients, and a library housing the Ember Archive. Emma designed it. Lily funded it. The world called it a miracle. On opening day, Emma, now CEO of the foundation, stood on the porch where I'd died. She held the silver locket. "This belonged to a little girl named Lily Harrington," she said. "Her grandfather never met my grandma, but he learned from her anyway. Today, we open our doors to every child, no matter their name, their bank account, or their past." She hung the locket on a chain above the entrance. It caught the sunlight, flashing like a beacon. Grandma, they say you can't take it with you. You proved them wrong. Every time a mother finishes her degree because of the foundation, every time a child learns to skip stones on our lake, every time someone chooses kindness over contempt, you are there. The smoke is gone. The sky is blue, and the ember you lit, it's a wildfire now. Thank you for teaching us. The greatest wealth is a heart that refuses to close. I'll keep it open, I promise. Emma Carter Davidson, age 47, still skipping stones. On the 20th anniversary of my death, a total solar eclipse crossed over Phoenix House. Thousands gathered on the hill. Emma, now gray-haired, stood with her own granddaughter, Clara too, age 7, on her shoulders. As the moon swallowed the sun, Emma whispered the words I'd said the night I died. The sky went dark. Then, a single beam of light broke through, a diamond ring around the eclipse. The crowd gasped. Little Clara pointed. "Grandma's waving." Emma smiled through tears. She always does. And in that moment, under a sky that had once burned, the last ember became a star.